Hello, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to the PG Show where, well, we talk about all things college football. Know a lot of you guys are hopping in my Twitter mentions about the Colorado content, the Florida Gators. But hey, listen, we're here to talk about all of the teams. And today we're going to talk about Arizona State, Colorado, Oklahoma, and many others. And today I am joined by Jay with Unfair Sports. How you doing today?
What's going on, PG? Love joining the show as usual. I appreciate you bringing me on the live stream. What's going on, all the peoples?
All right. Well, it's the end of the year for me at work. It's a Friday, 5 o'clock. So I'm not going to lie. I'm a little worn out, but I'm excited to talk some college football. And there's a lot of off-season drama is what I'm calling it today. And I think I want to start off with the big news. So Jaden Rashada committed to Arizona State on National Signing Day, and one of the top QB recruits in the 2023 class. And in my opinion, I had Jaden Rashada actually in my top 5 quarterbacks in the 2023 class. I thought he had that much upside. I thought he was good. This is a quarterback that Jeff Lebby in Oklahoma were even looking at before Jackson Arnold. It just happened that Jackson Arnold beat him to the race. So Kenny Dillingham, he got himself a pretty good future quarterback here. And this is kind of where I'm going with this. So track with me here. Kenny Dillingham in Arizona State. People don't realize how rich of a state Arizona is in terms of talent. For those of you who don't remember, in 2019, Spencer Rattler came out of Arizona. And Spencer Rattler was one of the most highly recruited quarterbacks in that class. Since then, in 2020, this is where I'm going to start. In 2020, they had 11 players ranked in the top 500 per the 247 composite. Arizona State got 0 of those players. You had 5-star cornerback Keely Ringo, 5-star running back Bijan Robinson, if that one rings a bell to any of you guys. And then you had some other 4-star quarterbacks, or one of them was Chuba Purdy at the quarterback position. And then in 2021, there were only 7 in the top 500. But again, a common theme we're starting to see. Arizona State was not able to land any of those commitments. One of the biggest ones out of the state that year, 4-star quarterback Ty Thompson. And then in 2022, again, another 7 in the top 500. 0 were taken by Arizona State. In 2023, you have 10 in the top 500. One of those being 5-star tight end Deuce Robinson. Again, 0 so far have been taken by Arizona State. And I don't likely think that Arizona State and Kenny Dillingham land Deuce Robinson pretty much this late into the cycle, because we're done with 2023. Deuce Robinson is one of the very few recruits that has not signed yet. And it looks like it's going to be maybe down between USC, Texas, and Georgia. But in 2024, Arizona State has an opportunity to redeem themselves, because you have 2 of the top players in the country, the number 1 overall quarterback in Dylan Raiola and the number 3 overall edge rusher in Elijah Rushing. And so when I look at this commitment for Jaden Rashada to Arizona State, this is bigger than just getting yourself a quarterback for 2024, 2025, and maybe even beyond. This is an opportunity to create and drum up excitement around this program. And yeah, you have Drew Pine to kind of be that buffer this year to give Jaden Rashada time to build weight and develop a little bit more. But I think Arizona they've got the staff and they have positioned themselves to potentially go out there and try to lock down their state and talent, which is what Oklahoma is doing here. What's your thoughts around this one, Jay? Because I found this whole Arizona State thing pretty interesting.
Yeah, I had some intrigue when it came to Arizona State getting Rashada, mainly around Dillingham being able to pull this off. Like you said, Rashada is a very good talent. He was one of your top players as far as quarterbacks, top 5 quarterbacks that you had on your list. And I mean, I can't argue with you. Dude's talented. I think he's going to be potentially something special. One of the things, though, that I really think about when it comes to him and just the entire scenario around him going to Arizona State is Kenny's going to be doing, Coach Dillingham's going to do some special stuff there, hopefully. Now, we thought Herm Edwards was going to as well, former NFL guy. He was able to bring in some recruits or whatnot, but the one thing he couldn't do that it seems like nobody can do at Arizona is keep in-state talent in-state. Their top guy in state is Deuce Robinson. He's not even considering the in-state schools. Um, and that's been like a tradition for like go look at classes the last 10 years. They never go to those two in-state schools. And it's baffling because no one can explain why. Even in the times, I remember when Mike Stoops was out there in the early 2000s, there was a struggle to keep in-state talent. It's just that the Arizona kids don't stay in Arizona, and I'm curious as to why. But hopefully, Dillingham can figure out how to flip that and bring them in. But it is wild that they can't do it. So the fact that they were to pull him from Cali and get Rashada there, I mean, that's a big move. And the biggest thing is going to be, what does the product look like on the field? Can Dillingham bring them to prominence in the Pac-12 first, and then something better? Because no one has truly been able to make Arizona State a potential power whatsoever. They can make them competitive, but the question is the school okay with them just being competitive? That's going to be like a long-term question. So very intriguing, but I want to see if he's able to keep the cycle going.
Yeah, and that's kind of one of the things here. They got Rashad Samples, which I think a lot of people outside of the Kenny Dillingham hire for head coaching, we thought that Rashad Samples was one of the best hires of the off season for Arizona State. And it brings a lot of overview to the Dallas area, just in the state of Texas in general. But I just don't think Arizona State is going to be successful on the recruiting trail if they can't even get the guys, or at least be in conversations in their own state. I was actually just looking deeper into the classes earlier today outside of the top 500, and you would see Arizona State landing guys that really weren't ranked in composite rankings. It was Arizona that was actually, of all schools, landing some of the top talent in the state of Arizona. And Arizona hasn't been very good. So maybe they can put this Herm Edwards stuff behind them. I'm not quite sure what these penalties are going to look like from the NCAA on this program, if they give any to them. In my personal opinion, Herm Edwards isn't there, so why punish the new coaching staff in this program since the previous administration is no longer there? But that's just my opinion. The NCAA does what they want to, but I think it looks like from the outside looking in, Arizona State's going the right way. But I mean, I just don't know, because, I mean, you're in the Pac-12. The Pac-12 is being diminished because you're not going to have USC and UCLA. So it's going to be, out of the Power 5 conferences, probably the least important, the most looked down upon. And I don't know if Arizona State's going to be able to build a name for themselves unless they can land guys in their own state like Dylan Raiola and Elijah Rushing, and even some of the future guys in 2025 and 2026.
Yeah, and I'm kind of curious to what Dillingham's going to do against Judd Fish. That's the big question. The coach over there at Arizona, he was able to do some miraculous things at Arizona. Went from his first year 1-11 to 5-7 his second year. So it looks like he has an upward trajectory, and that's something Dillingham's going to have to, I guess you could say, compete with. He's going to have to see if year one, after the sanctions and everything comes down from whatever the hell Herm Edwards and his staff did, once those all come down, will he be able to overcome that year two? Because year one's wash. I'm just going to keep it honest, keep it a buck. There's not much they're going to do once those sanctions come down. It's going to probably potentially be a bad year. They may end up being 1-11. Hell, they may not win a single game. I hope they do. They should have at least one cupcake on their schedule to win. But there's a chance that they may not win a single game outside of a potential cupcake this year. Then year two is going to be the question of what he looks like, what that change is going to be. It's kind of like what Coach Prime up there in Colorado. We're really more intrigued about next season than we really are this year, because this year we know they're coming from 1-11. They're going to improve. I mean, they've got to win more than one game. So anything that he wins after one is gravy, because that means they've made an improvement. But year two in staff, you'll have at least one class under your belt, working on your second class under your belt. And because this one is quote unquote piecemeal that Coach Prime as well as Dillingham is doing at Arizona State. You come in late December and you're finally in homes, and instead of you being home in one shirt for one school, you're taking it off and you're putting the other shirt on. Now you're going in and you're doing the same pitch, but you're doing it to a different location. Hey, instead of you coming to Jackson State, come to Colorado. Hey, instead of you coming to Oregon with all these beautiful jerseys, come to Arizona State, where we're going to figure out how to get some beautiful jerseys like that, but we're going to play good football though. So you've got to go in there with that entire sales pitch. And it's a piecemeal. It really is. I mean, Rashada was a great steal for him after the whole situation with Florida and that fiasco. But it's a piecemeal class. Then this whole cycle here will really tell us the most about what he's going to be able to do at that school. This next class is going to be critical. He's going to have to get a top 50 class, or probably top 40 this time around, because I think he's at 36 for Arizona State this year. I know that Arizona is not doing very well. Let me go look at this. 36 on the 24/7 composite. I'm sorry, overall 36 because that includes transfers. 47 composite. He's going to have to get a top 40 composite ranking if he wants to really make an impact going in that Pac-12. And overall ranking, he's got to get that up in the top 20s. That's going to include transfers. But he did good with transfers, though. I will say that.
They did. They're number 10 overall right now, and I think they took, 20-something guys?
26. They brought in 26 commits. They brought in more than Colorado, and Colorado brought in 24. They were bringing in everybody. But he brought in 26, which is pretty darn good.
Yeah. Number 10 overall, behind teams like Oklahoma, UCLA, Colorado, and
Indiana. Yeah. No. That's what you want. And
they got Drew Pine, so they definitely have a quarterback that's comparable this year to be able to go out, or competent enough to be able to go out there and do something. I don't know. We saw what Oklahoma was able to do with all those transfers this year. I'm not sure Arizona State is going to be able to translate that, because it's not like Kenny Dillingham brought a bunch of guys from Oregon. At least from Colorado, Deion Sanders brought a bunch of his Jackson State guys, and the offense they're running out there is fairly similar. These guys out there at Arizona State, they're just going to have to learn an all-new system. They've got to be able to develop chemistry together. I think you're right. They probably win 1 or 2 games. It's not very many. I think a lot of people point to that Colorado game as a game for Arizona State to win. That probably is a must-win for Arizona State. I think Colorado comes out victorious in that matchup, but if you're Arizona State, you have to go into that game saying, listen, they're not much better than us in terms of on-field, what they have returning, first-year head coach. We should be able to go in there and get that win, and I think that's what they're looking at.
Yeah. Weston just mentioned in the comment section, it's going to be interesting. They do play Oklahoma State. Can they win that game? If they win that game, bruh.
They almost beat Oklahoma State last year.
My point. There's a chance. I mean, and I'm glad you reminded me. I forgot that Pine did transfer there. So he's got competence at the quarterback position. The question is can everything come together, which I think he can. If you've got competence throwing the ball, you can do enough to win enough games to keep the motivation going, I guess you could say. Arizona State doesn't expect him to be successful year one because they understand that they're going to be ready for those sanctions and all the stuff that went down with Herm Edwards or whatnot. So, I mean, there's a chance they may actually outdo my thoughts. 3-9 was what I was thinking too, Hank. That's probably about the best in my mind, especially, like I said, piecemeal class and then all the changes. But bringing in that top 10 ranked transfer class, 26 kids, I mean, there's a good chance that you could flip that around and actually make it to a bowl game. That is bowl possibilities if Dillingham and his staff puts together a really good game plan and they go out there and win some games. Their schedule isn't brutal this year.
No, I mean, Arizona is one of those teams I feel like you should be able to beat. Arizona had a decent year last year, but Arizona's not very good. So they should, that's a game that they should be able to win, and it's a rivalry game for them. So that would be big just in terms of in-state recruiting, which is kind of where we started with all of this.
I mean, like I said, Judd Fish took his team from 1-11 to 5-7. So he's building something too. So, you got an in-state that looks like, coming from a former NFL coach, looks like he's actually trying to do some stuff. I don't know what special stuff he can do out there. I mean, it's Arizona State. They, for years have been, a roller coaster ride in general. But at the same time, if you can do it right. So, I mean, they got Southern Utah, so that better be a win. And then Oklahoma State coming to them. There's a chance that they could win out there in Tempe. And then Fresno State, which I'd be terrified if I was them. So they've got some winnable games. We'll see what they look like in conference, though. I think that's going to be the telltale story of what they look like long term, because in conference, it's probably going to get tough. This schedule is not easy at all. Yikes.